Hello, I'm Kathy Chester, and this is Move It or Lose It, a podcast about all things that move the mind, body, spirit, and soul.
Well, hello, welcome to another edition, a different kind of our Move It or Lose It podcast. So it's our Wind Down Wednesday. So I've got all of my favorite, some of them are missing tonight. So we're sad about that. But some of my favorite warriors in the world with me tonight. And we're going to talk about some of the issues that we've seen, that we've heard feedback from you guys, and really want to dive in and make sure that we're always answering that stuff for you. Make sure that we're discussing the topics that are important not only to us, but also to you, because we want to make an ability to meet the needs and honest needs. Last time we had so much fun giggling, talking about all the things MS, talking about intimacy, things like that. And like I said, I do have a doctor coming on that will talk also about intimacy and what it's like as a female in the different areas. And I had a men's group talk about that. And so we'll be talking to a lot of different doctors and that just really have a lot to say about this area. Oftentimes we don't hear it as much for women. What does intimacy feel like? And when we lose that, how do we go about discussing that? And so we had a lot about that. We just covered just about everything and giggling and laughing. And so now again, we're going to have a landing spot, and Melody will talk about that later for questions, and they can address it to whomever they'd like to. So whichever one of us they want to. So we've got Tamara and we've got Terry in there from the Twins Coast to Coast. We've got Melody on. Melody Sapien, who now is no longer in her old Las Vegas. You are now in very chilly
Provo, Utah.
Yes. And Brooke, you are in New York. I've got you in the wrong place, Pennsylvania. And then Jen, you're in California, and I am in freezing cold Detroit, Michigan. So, and it is chilly here. So with that, and we're waiting for Dawn, and of course, our lovely women that you saw last week that will be joining us next month. So again, our Wind Down Wednesday is a time of wind down Wednesday. Matthew Embry, don't look, don't judge. We're praying for Matthew as he fights battles this COVID. We know he will beat it. And so as we go on this, I want to talk about, again, of course, I said how happy we are to be able to do this, and so grateful for the ability to chat and talk to so many strong women who have fought this, like Tamara and Terry over 20 years. I've been battling this over 20 years. We've got so many. I love the age differences. That's a big part of my ministry, my working with MS patients, clients, is always having the different ages, because we learn so much from each other. And I think when we just settle with one age group, we lose so much, because we learn so much from the younger people, and the younger people really learn a lot from us. I think when we segregate each other and we don't realize how much importance it is to get it from every age, we lose a lot. So I love that we are having so many different ages in this group. So my topic tonight, I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to let you lead. So one of the things that was brought up to me after our last topic was, we've got these strong, amazing, beautiful women. And I said, of course, thank you. I'm sure they were talking about me. So what I said to them is, what they had asked me about, what about when we're not insured? What about those of us who don't have insurance? What about when, going to the neurologist isn't even an option? Going to the doctors is difficult. And it got me thinking, because we were having so much fun talking about, different things that we do for our MS, different treatments. And I thought, man, it's been a long time, but I went back to my divorce years, and going through that was so difficult. And being married to a pastor, that was difficult to go through that divorce. And it was difficult enough on the MS, but financially, it really crushed me. And I thought about ways that I dealt with that, and ways that without having any money, at the time, it was very difficult. And I thought back to what kinds of things we can do, and you can feel free to add on to this. One of the things that I did was go to the company that made my medication. And I went to them and I said, I need help. This is what I've been through. These are some things that I need help with. Not only did they help with the copay, but they also gave me several infusions. That's one that you just don't know what they're going to do. So I would say write it down, because our cog fog could just get there and we could forget. So I would say definitely write down what you need, and don't be afraid to ask for it, and go to the company, they make it, and see if they can help you. Another thing I wrote down was going into, a lot of our medications aren't covered. So back then it was, if you don't have insurance, they for sure weren't covered. So look into some different programs. Walmart has a great program where some of their medications are as low as $4. So there's a lot of different stores, different pharmacies that do not just like the RX. So you can look into those where you're able to go into, I did the prescriptions for us not covered. So you can look into discount programs such as GoodRx, which most of us know about. And then places like Walmart have discount programs that you can get into. Learning to reach out. This was hard for me. So learn to reach out to your church or different places that can help you, that you may need help getting over the first couple months, or when you get into a really sticky situation and you need help for not just a cane, because those are inexpensive, but a walking device, something like that. So for me, those are some of the things that I came up with in my divorce times, when I was really, really thinking, do I put food on the table for the kids, or do I do this for myself? And so those are things I thought of, because for me at that time, a massage wasn't in the mix. Sounded great, but that wasn't happening. Things that we like now, nails, wasn't happening. Things like that just weren't perks in my life. So that was what I came up with. Anyone want to add to that?
This is Terry with Twins Coast to Coast. Another great source would be go to the National MS Society website, yes. Click on your navigator, because that is such a wonderful tool to chat with in a chat box, or there you can call and speak to somebody directly. Yes. But the navigator is a wealth of information, not just in financials, but many, many other things. Yeah. So I'd highly recommend that. Yeah.
Very good. Yep. I forgot to put that down. I just did a thing on the navigator. So yeah, you're right. That is a great idea. Anyone else before we move on?
Well, I one time just Googled the name of the medication to see what would come up. And within that, the drug company offered coupons. And in fact, I even think I told you about this, Kathy, is that a lot of these drugs you can get coupons for. Yes. And so my insurance pays whatever they've decided to pay. And then the drug company has written off the rest. So it's a coupon for zero copay. And it's a drug that I feel like I cannot live without. Emgality for my migraines. Yes. It's been really the only medication that has been like 100% great. Yeah. So yeah, I just kind of even recommend that. Just ask people in this community, looking online, because I was always thinking that, the first number they give you of what your drug's going to cost, you can always get it down through your research or talking to somebody or calling the drug company or whatnot, especially if you're unemployed or without insurance. They're willing to work with you. They want you on their meds. So
Yes, Jen, for sure. I think that's a great idea. And you're right. They do absolutely. As soon as you reach out to the company and Google them and talk to them, they will do that. So that's another great idea. But I wanted to make sure that, we assume that so many of our autoimmune people know this, that their doctors are telling them this. And oftentimes they have no idea and no one to help them. And I think back to when I was diagnosed, as many of you know, I don't have parents that are around to help. And so it was a very scary time for me. And so not having a lot of support was always very scary and very, well, I guess it really put me in a spot where it taught me to figure it out on my own. Right. So I figured out how to do a lot of this on my own so I can then help others. So that is, and thank you guys for your other tips and stuff on this. But what do you got, Tamara?
Well, I was just going to say, I agree. You need to be your own advocate.
Yes.
When your doctor orders these medications, they're very expensive.
Yes.
It's very intimidating as a patient when the doctor and the nurses go through the pre-approval process. First thing, in my opinion, the insurance companies always say no and need more information from your doctors. So it can take over a month or two to get, pre-authorized, and you get very intimidated.
Yeah.
Don't be timid about it. Be your own advocate.
Yes.
Call the company that your prescription is for and say, I am a patient. My doctor has, recommended I'm on this medicine.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have also received the medication for free for a month or two to either get me started on the meds, or it's January right now and people have to meet their
deductible. Right.
Have very high deductibles, and they often are difficult for us to meet. So
absolutely.
Again, the pharmaceutical companies will work for you. So be your own advocate. You have to be.
Yeah. Very good advice. Very, very good advice. Yeah. Things that we can learn from and take it from us, because we've been there. We've had to be our own advocates. We've had to do things like that. We've had medications prescribed to us that are so over the top expensive that we could never afford. And then either call the doctor, call the insurance, call the company and say, there's got to be something that can be done, because there's no possible way that I could take this monthly. So, and 9 times out of 10, there is a solution to that. So that I absolutely agree with that. So moving on from there, it was going to be Dawn next, but she's not on yet. So we're going to wait. So from here on, I'm going to go on. She's going to talk about employment and other things. So moving on from Dawn, I'm going to go ahead and go on to Twins Coast to Coast. I want you guys to talk about what we talked about earlier, as far as the walking and everything we talked about. I'm not going to take it away from you.
Carrie, would you like to begin? It looks like your voice.
Yeah.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
So this is Terry with Twins Coast to Coast, and we are mirror image twins and been diagnosed for the last 25 years. And what does it mean to be a mirror image twin? Well, in general, we are identical twins. We have the same DNA, which is exciting. And we both have MS, which is very rare for siblings or even other family members to have MS together, but it does happen. So Tamara and I decided, once our children were grown and off to college, that we would start a lifestyle Instagram, Facebook website to be warriors and a voice for multiple sclerosis for all stages. We're both in secondary progressive MS. I'm in a motorized wheelchair, and Tamara is in a wheelchair and is catching up to me, but our symptoms have been very similar to one another. And we just stay positive, but we're lucky because we have each other to talk to.
Yeah.
So Tamara, would you like to fill in?
Well, yes, I also would like to say we like to share our knowledge of living with almost 25 years of MS. We can help people, understand the disease. It doesn't always, especially with all the wonderful DMTs out there today, MS doesn't have to look like it does for Terry and I 25 years after diagnosis.
Right.
And it's very important for us to share our information, get the word out, and to be advocates for people living with MS and any other chronic disease.
Yes, absolutely. For sure it is. And we so appreciate that, for one, twins coming on. I know that I have my son who has it. My oldest son has multiple sclerosis. So it is so strange when they say it's not hereditary, right? And we're like, really? And we know that some of our family has it. What I find so interesting is that, like the two of you, I can look at my aunt who had it and my son and myself, and so many of the things are very common that we struggled with, which is so incredibly just, strange for someone to come to us and say, it is not hereditary. There's nothing to do with family. And I'm like, but we all have it on the left side.
Right.
Our right eye, we can't see. And it's just so many common things that I'm like,
there needs to be more studies for family members and twins. Absolutely right. You do find, my goodness, your son, how old is your son?
My son is, well, now that you're going to know how old I am, I was too young to have children. So now we have to go there. And I was very, very young when I had my first child. So I always have to answer this question, because then when I say it, they're like, no, he will be 31.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I was a baby and we should not have had children that young. So
I'm sure that you have been able to support him through this and give him some good advice, and you model, a wonderful life that you can live with MS and stay healthy.
Yeah.
So
it's very important.
Tell us a little bit about your aunt, because I find it fascinating. Is this on your mom's side, dad's side?
It's all on my mom's side. And my aunt was in Canada, so I didn't get to see her very often. But when I did, I didn't really understand what MS was. I just knew that every time I saw her, she was a little worse and a little worse. But she was one of those warriors that didn't do a lot of complaining. So I just remember towards the end, we were on a vacation and she got out of the car and she just kind of collapsed and her legs gave out. And I didn't know that was something that was happening to her more and more common. And then it just seemed like the next thing, she had passed away from cancer, eventually is what took her. And back then, my goodness, in Canada to get an MRI, I think it took her a year and a half to get just an MRI.
Hard.
So, it's
difficult.
It is. And so I think just with that, it was trying for her to catch up on what she couldn't do. And once she had everything together, she quit smoking, she quit doing all this stuff to get her life, but it was a little bit too late. So I even believe on my mom's side, my grandfather had it, but we had no idea. So.
Well, it's so interesting. They always ask, do you have autoimmune disease in your family? And looking back, we see on our father's side of the family, there are quite a few people with autoimmune diseases. So you just hope that one day somebody's listening to all of us out there talk about Tamara and Terry, identical twins.
Right.
Let's do a study on the twins. Let's do a study with Kathy's family, because here you are with your son and your aunt. So there is, at some point, I truly believe they're going to find some sort of gene out there that is a hereditary gene towards autoimmune diseases. What avenue it looks like, I don't know. It's so fascinating to me that here you are with so many of you, very uncommon to find 3 people, just, in a row, pretty much.
Anyone else want to add to that? Anyone else have anyone in their family? Are they good?
My mom has fibromyalgia,
Okay.
and her symptoms sound a lot like mine.
Yeah.
And she started having symptoms, I would say at least 15 years before my symptoms started. So I was just thinking it was that fibromyalgia. I don't know. They sound a lot alike. She just doesn't have the lesions and doesn't have the,
Right.
the protein and the spinal fluid and everything. So, but as far as MS, we don't really know. Some like you were saying, just older people in the family, maybe never
Right.
diagnosed, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And just kind of people complaining of the same things, just not diagnosed
Right.
with an
Right. autoimmune
or whatnot,
Right.
which we
So
hear a
now-
lot about too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So now my twins, I want to hear what happened in Georgia. What was going on in Georgia?
Well, we actually grew up in Florida, which, for MS, they always say you live in a climate that's cold, you live in a region that's in the, north. We grew up in sunny Florida, lots of vitamin D, lots of sunshine. So you wouldn't think that
Right.
we would develop MS because they always say it's a lack of vitamin D, lack of sunshine. We actually both experienced symptoms around 10 with our healing because we were very active. We would play tennis, we would swim, we would run, and that's when our symptoms happened. But because we were the only two, we didn't have any other siblings, our parents just thought we had growing pains when we would talk about aches and pains in their knees or tingling. Who knew those were the early signs of MS?
Oh
but
yeah.
no one knew it because as twins, we were the only two. We had identical symptoms. So there was not a red flag
at
that time.
Sure. Makes sense.
So here's Terry, and you just asked, so what took place in Georgia today?
Yeah, I know. I was
we had an exciting day here in Georgia. So this is Terry again with Twins Coast to Coast, and I am on the Board of Trustees for the state of Georgia for the National MS Society. And today was our official MS Society Advocacy Day with the state of Georgia and all the senators and House of Representatives. So we have, and it's not just a state bill, but it's a national bill, but we're trying to push it through our state, of course, and all the other states. Look out for your advocacy days because it's starting now. Between now and first session, you will have your MS Society Advocacy Day. And right now we are wanting the House of Representatives and the senators to vote yes for mental health for people with multiple sclerosis. How many people over the last 2 years have been dealing with mental health and COVID? Raise your hands. Yes. Me, I will agree. I can see all the hands there. That's terrific because we need to have funding for our coverage for mental health. As we all know, there are some insurances that will cover, but there's a waiting list right now.
Yes.
So many people are in need for mental health, and you have to go to other psychologists or psychiatrists, and most of them are out of network. And we're trying really, really hard. And the state of Georgia is really trying to come down on that, the out of pocket, because you can spend, my deductible out of pocket is $10,000. That's a lot of visits at $150 each time you go see a psychologist. So today was a very important day. We identified, most of the senators and House of Representatives, at least in the state of Georgia, are not in the medical field. We have a few doctors, a few people that did public health, but most people do not know what MS is. People do not know that MS comes with a lot of mental health, and we shouldn't be ashamed of our mental health. And we need to make this an important issue for this year because we have a lot to say, and we need everybody in every state, Michigan, California, I'm not sure where everybody else is, but please look up your state advocacy day. You don't have to be a trustee to be on the call. You just need to be a state, from your home state, and be an advocate and raise your voice to those senators and House representatives and say, let's pass the bill.
Yeah. And thank you so much for making us aware of that also. And we did want to talk about mental health. And a couple of weeks ago, gosh, Jen, all the days run together for me now, but Jen and I had an opportunity. Not sure how many of you were able to see it, but Jen and I have decided to go on once a month and just talk about what it's like being a mom and what it's like having older kids. So older kids with having MS, having autoimmune disease, and having not toddlers, not babies, but older kids. And I always felt like when as a mom that they carried you through toddler, you always get books on little kids, you get books on this, and this. Then all of a sudden they got to be teenagers and you were like, help. And there was no help. And then it was just like, you're on your own. Good luck. You did great. And it was like, but help. And so I think that for many of us, mental, especially this last couple of years, I know that Jen and I were able to discuss that. And the mental illness, the pain that these kids and young adults have gone through have just been devastating. And I wonder, Jen, to bring you in now, if you would be willing to share a little bit about what we talked about and what you had. I know we talked a lot about the teens and our kids in the schools.
We did, yeah. So it was last Wednesday, and we got a horrible phone call saying that our neighbor's son, who all my kids and the neighbor's kids, they all grew up together, had committed suicide. And it just really hit so hard. We're devastated. And it just really got me, especially thinking about, am I doing enough for my kids during this time? Because they're young adults, and with the pandemic and the homeschooling and the this and that, not knowing if they go to school the next day, or even just the fact that my oldest has had 5 students from her graduating class commit suicide. And it just gives me chills. Like, I just don't know how to help these kids. And this young man had so much going for him. So you just never know what someone's going through. And it made me, after the shock kind of wore off, just really do a check-in with everybody. Of course, I had been close with my daughters, my husband, and our neighbors, but really just calling family members and parents and grandparents. I'm lucky my grandparents are still with me, just checking in on people, how they're doing. My brothers, everyone's been so affected by the pandemic. Everyone has their own thing going on. And then that just kind of leading into like our community, the MS community, the autoimmune community, just checking in with people. How are you doing? Because we have this disease and this pandemic and your career, whatever it is, all the things piling on. And though TV's talking about mental health, but is anything being done about that? I'm lucky that I have great insurance, though they do all the normal things of denying the first time around. But I can get in to see a therapist and a psychiatrist, and I get my kids in. It doesn't happen quickly, but we need to somehow just check in on people and see if they need help. Because if they're truly depressed or dealing with mental illness on top of depression, whatnot, they need help. They need an outsider to help. And if they don't have the means or they don't know how to go about getting help, we can be those people to show them the way. And I don't know, that's just kind of what I've been doing the last, I would say, few days.
Yeah, which I think is great, Jen. I think that we talked about that. You have a great heart for that. And I think it's time too, if you notice, when you look at schools and subbing, they've really changed some of the rules, at least here in Michigan. so that you can sub, I was a pastor's wife for 18 years and almost 18 years. And I did a lot of work with young adults and teenagers. And so for me, when we talked about this, and I've seen it a lot here in Michigan, a lot of the depression, a lot of the mental illness, it's affected me greatly because it's a big part. I love teenagers and young adults. And so I've offered just to come in and to help counsel any time that I can in any of the schools or with any of the kids, because I think it is, of course, we want to have somebody that is a true psychologist or psychiatrist, but there's such a shortage right now and they are so swamped. And just one of the things that, was struck me growing up in a very dysfunctional home is that I'll always remember, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I was young and in a very, very dysfunctional family. And I tried to commit suicide when I was in 9th grade, and never one time thinking that I was actually going to die or even really thought about it. Just feeling that I was such a nuisance in my home, and that if I was just gone, everything would be better. And I think sometimes these kids, especially through what they've been through, really feel that way. And reaching out to them, and just studies show that one person believing in them and letting them know that they can and they are worth it and that they can do this with their life gives them an 85% chance higher of making it and doing something great with their life. So I think it's important for us just to speak encouragement and just to listen. So I love that, Jen, that and you've been able to be there for the family, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
It's been a sad time. Thank you for sharing your story. I know that I don't know a person that doesn't have highs and lows, and I don't know that everyone knows that. We're
Yeah.
not supposed to be the same mood all day, every
Right.
day, happy or sad or whatever. There's ups and downs. And then obviously with mental illness, things that you cannot control,
Right.
depression runs under mental illness, but I don't think people even understand how common it is. And like you said, and this is the point of reaching out, if that person knows that they're not alone or that you have their back,
Yes.
that could mean the world.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, you just don't. For me, it was the therapist that with that, I don't want to take too much time into this, but it was a therapist that just kind of they all looked through the pile, and my family was just so harsh and just very dysfunctional. They just didn't see a way that I was going to make it. And so they just kind of shoved my name aside to each, and everybody denied it. And the one therapist that picked it up saved my life. And really, I wouldn't be here today. And ironically, when I became a Christian, I called her. It just really, it was heavy on my heart to called her, and she had been praying for me every day since we counseled, since I was 10 years old. So, you never know what you do in someone else's life. It was not a Christian therapy place. So she couldn't tell me, back then, she couldn't pray for me or say, I'm praying for you. But it was just such a neat thing. We're still friends today. Actually, we just talked today. So it's just a real blessing. I think something that you never know who you touch or what words you say that really minister to someone.
Absolutely. And I just like to say that, with COVID, with teenagers, with the young adults in their 20s, it's a very isolating time. And teenagers and early 20-year-olds are social. We're social.
Very.
So to put yourself in isolation is a very difficult thing. Then you have access to Instagram, Facebook,
right.
Snapchat, and you see everybody happy and perfect.
Right.
And
right.
you're not feeling that way. It's
right.
a very serious thing. And we are in the crisis of mental health
yeah.
right now. And people just should not be embarrassed to talk about that they have
No.
feelings of suicide. They need help. They need to reach out. And I am so glad that Jen, you reach out to people and that you
Yes.
call and you check in. That's so important.
It is so important. Yeah. Thank you so much. And so I wanted to go on to Brooke. We didn't talk about it. I let you just kind of wing it. So what you got, girl? I was like, Brooke, you got this, girl. Come on.
I did not have a topic for today. I thought you had like 4 different topics, and I was not one of them. So I was more than willing to contribute. But no, honestly, I wish Dawn would have come on because she and we did a podcast episode together.
You did?
Yes, that she's going to be releasing sometime this year. And it was about MS advocacy.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I was talking to another group of MSers, and we told them about the episode that we had done, and they were all about it. And it was about the premise is speaking to advocates in the MS/chronic illness disability space.
Right.
And the title or the premise is, are you preaching or are you teaching?
Ooh, I like that.
Or I think it's, are you teaching or are you preaching?
I
Because
like
you think you're educating, but sometimes, and I think we're all guilty of it at some point or another, what's supposed to be an educational post turns into a rant.
Yes.
Or just kind of getting something off your chest, or,
yeah.
But it could be, just putting something out there to let others know that you're not the only one who's thinking this.
Right. Absolutely.
But that was when I'd love to get into it even more, but then that would spoil the podcast. No, I think as all of us are advocates, it's a tightrope we walk. And especially, it varies per age, it's interesting because I think we all probably follow an entire range of ages of people, stages of people in the disease. And it's like, I'm an observer of all things. I love to observe and then kind of digest where that person might be at that moment, what they might be thinking, more importantly, what they might be feeling. And so many times you just want to jump in and say, don't panic, don't.
Right.
But then there are other times you like, there are people that are strictly educational, like every single post is meant to be an educational post.
Yes.
And then there are others who, some are educational and some are kind of like bitey.
Right.
They're preaching. They're
Yes.
They're not teaching. Or they're telling people within the disability space what they should or shouldn't be saying.
Right.
Or how to approach people within the chronic illness disability space.
Yes, Brooke.
And it's fine if you are addressing the able-bodied community, but sometimes it's telling it to the disability community. And I often think to myself, I am disabled. And you can say that to me,
Right.
you can, I'm not going to be offended if you say whatever, sometimes it might depend how thick-skinned you are or not, but I don't know. That's what the whole thing, the entire premise of it is, are you teaching or are you preaching?
Yeah.
And it really did. I think it's probably going to piss a few people off.
Oh yeah, I will.
In the community, but it's, it's not really a rant. The podcast episode isn't really a rant. It's just kind of an observation.
Yes.
And I think we all at some point see some things that, I don't know, I see things that make me a little cringy, and I'm thinking, oh boy, oh no, don't do that. You don't want to do that. You're just having a bad day.
Absolutely.
But we sometimes, you got to sit there before you hit the post button.
Yes.
Like, take a deep breath.
Right.
Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to say this? Like, oh, I don't know how many posts, whether it's a podcast episode or a post, I've written a whole post and then I sleep on it. And then the next morning I reread it and I delete it. I'm like, I'm like, no.
Now, were you always like that, Brooke? Or like for me, a lot of times I'll say, gosh, I wish I could have told my younger self that. I wish I would have done this as a younger self, because I was hot Italian and could not hold back my opinion then.
Oh no, I was in the legal profession for a long time, for like 15 years. So you really have to think before you speak. You gotta.
Right.
So I always am thinking about what I'm about to say and what's going to be right, what's going to be wrong, what I'm going to have to, backpedal on. Oh yeah.
Yes.
I'm very calculated.
Not so much in the same fields, but as a pastor's wife, you definitely have to think that way as well.
Yeah. You got to tiptoe around a lot of stuff, let a minefield.
Yes. You're in that crystal ball. So you have to be very careful of what you say and who you talk to and how you go about it. So I love that. And I love what you had. I'm looking so forward to that podcast, because I do think there is a bleeding over of preaching and we lose the advocacy part of it. We lose the helping, and we learn this. We want to help you. This is what I learned. And this was so awesome. I want to give you this tool. And then it becomes this preaching time. And it's like, so I love that you guys are going after that, because it's a big topic. And I think because we see so much more of it, which is awesome. We've got to kind of work on fine tuning it, because we've got such a large space now with Instagram and with Snapchat and with all the stuff that people can come on, and I still am like, what did I just see? And say things that are just kind of absolutely crazy. And sometimes that can be a little bit off-putting. I know for me and for what I do with movement, and we've talked about that before, and autoimmune disease, and I see someone doing something insane and I'm like, no, they can't do that. That's not okay. So there's got to be some accountability. And sometimes you just feel like, where is that? Where is that accountability? And where is the advocating? And how is this advocating? This is harmful. So glad you're doing that.
We talked about the difference in how different ages of people in the space attack the disease and advocacy. And we talked about how we both, and I'm sure you ladies do too, appreciate the energy and the vibe coming from the youth within the space.
Yes.
Because they are pointing out things that I know. I'm 57. So I let a lot of things roll off my, like, we're the suck it up and move it along kind of generation. It's like, whatever.
Right.
Call me whatever title you want to call me. I'm disabled. Call me whatever you want. Don't be rude, but we're not so easily offended. And I don't want to make a blanket statement about the youth being offended either. But they have brought to the surface, they're not afraid to call it like it is.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. I appreciate them taking a stand, So it's really kind of cool to see how all the different generations of people,
because my husband is around your age, Brooke. So he is about 10 years older than me. So it's different watching, how he would approach something, how I would, and then our kids. So my stepdaughter's boyfriend is about 10, 12 years younger than me. And then we've got our kids who are younger than that. So it's a very interesting when you see how everybody takes things and everybody rolls. It's so, to me, always interesting to see how different generations take things. And I love the boldness. When I watch my stepdaughter and my daughter speak out with boldness, I'm like, you go girls, because we're taking over the world. But I do love that they feel that empowerment that I know I didn't feel.
Yeah.
When I was first diagnosed in my, mid-20s, I never felt empowered to do anything. I felt zip it, close your mouth, don't lose your kids, and for God's sake, don't lose your job.
Yeah.
So that is one of the big things that that Dawn is going to talk about, is being in the workplace after diagnosis and stuff like that. And so I don't want to take that from her. I want her to be able to share that. And she did just message me. She will not be able to come on. So we will talk about that later, but she has suffered a great loss today and has been through a lot. And I've had the privilege of being able to pray with her throughout the day. And so if you know Dawn she was with Melon and Melon, the podcast, and now she's doing her own, and I'm very proud of her. She's doing a great job. And so keep her in your prayers and your thoughts. She and her family are going through a lot right now. So with that, Brooke, I'm going to turn it over for a minute. Melody, our health person, what do we got on the health end?
Hi. Of course, I'm going to take it into a whole different place than the whole podcast.
I know, you go, girl.
I do have some tips for you guys, tips and hacks. So I'm Melody, and I was diagnosed with MS about 8 years ago when I was 15 years old. Ever since then, I found so much hope through my nutrition and lifestyle habits, and I just felt like it was my purpose to help other people do the same. I now have my functional nutritional therapy practitioner license, and every day I feel like I go on Instagram and I tell people how much our habits mean to us, what we put in our body, what we tell our mind. It really does matter. Our habits matter. And I just have some tips and hacks on how to eat well on a budget, because I feel like every day people are like, I want to eat well, but it's so expensive. And as someone that recently graduated college and moved out on my own, I feel like I've learned a lot of hacks on how to stay within budget. So I have 5 tips for you guys. So my first one is to eat frozen vegetables.
This will be on the bottom of the show notes too, right?
Yes.
So not everybody has to pull over right now and get in a car accident.
100%. Okay. I actually have 10 tips for them on the show notes. But for right now, I'm going to give you guys 5.
Okay.
So the first one is to buy frozen vegetables. They last longer, and they're a lot cheaper than buying vegetables that are fresh a lot of the time. My second one is don't buy everything organic. I feel like when you go on a wellness journey, people advocate for organic, but that's not always feasible for everyone. So if you can do 30% organic, 70% non-organic, if that's what you can do, that's what you can do, and that's your best, and that's completely okay. Number 3 is to cook at home. I feel like when you go on a wellness journey, it's a lot of work to cook in your kitchen, and it's a lot of time, but it's a lot more nutrient dense, and it's a lot cheaper than going out of your house and trying to find something for yourself that is within your wellness journey. Number 4 is to make specialty foods at home. For example, if you're going gluten and dairy free, a lot of the time we want to grab those cookies, we want to grab the ice cream that's gluten and dairy free, but it's so expensive. So if you can, there's so many recipes that are on the internet that are really tasty. A lot of the time it's trial and error, but it's 100% worth it. And number 5 is to avoid food waste. I was on Dr. Wall's plan for a very long time until I made it my own, but she would always advocate for, if there's vegetables in your fridge that are going bad, maybe start fermenting it, maybe throw it in a smoothie or a crock pot. Don't let it go to waste. Don't throw away food. And those are my 5 tips for today.
Like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are good ones. Now we do that a lot with our, at the end of the week, we always call them Muscos.
Mm-hmm.
So get it, must go.
Must
So
go.
Okay.
must go. So
love
at the
that.
end of the week, we do our must goes. And so that's like putting all the vegetables, because that's what we have is so many vegetables, and putting them all in a soup or broth, and really just getting
That's
them
awesome.
out. Some of them that are really fresh, eating them up. And definitely I would say that is a big thing, is getting in all of those vegetables. And something you had said, I was going to ask a question of, one of the things you first said about one of your things, your four were, the first one was frozen vegetables. And then
don't purchase everything organic.
Okay. So do you have what are your top 5 things you would say organic?
Oh my goodness. It depends. It depends on the season too.
Okay.
So I like to buy everything seasonal because a lot of the times that is cheaper. So it really just depends on the season, what that would be.
Okay.
I feel like for me, the number one, because it's my favorite food, is avocado.
Oh, now you would say avocado, do that organic. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Because I've heard back and forth from people that it's not as important because of the skin, that you don't have to worry about it.
I've heard that too, but I feel like I eat 1 to 2 avocados a day. So for me, if I'm putting in my body on a consistent basis, that's what I like to, that's my one investment to myself, is my avocados for sure.
Okay. And you're not a coffee drinker, right?
Not anymore. So I used to drink like 8 cups of coffee a day at least, but I found out that it really hit my adrenals. So it always have peaks and valleys of energy crashes and just feeling really good all of a sudden, and then an energy crash. And then it also started affecting my hands. I started feeling numbness in my hands.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I really just started listening to my body. What is it like? What is it not like? And I feel like I do my best not drinking coffee, which is so sad for me because I love coffee, but gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
Right. No, because I know for me, and I don't know if you found this, Melody, I can drink coffee in the morning, but I can't drink a lot of it. If I try to warm it up and keep it going, it has to be done by noon. Can't have another glass, another sip, or I won't sleep at all. But I do notice that for me, organic coffee is a must. If I drink anything but organic, I get very jittery. And so I don't know if any of you do any of you drink coffee? I'm the only bad one.
I drink coffee. I just
Okay.
I don't know if I've tried organic coffee. I don't know, but I limit myself to 1 cup in the morning. And yeah, I might can't drink it past 9. I don't know. I'm an early riser for work.
Yeah.
So.
What about you guys?
Another thing you can do to get rid of the jitters is to add like a fat to your coffee.
Yeah.
And that
MCT oil.
MCT oil, or you can even do coconut oil, because it releases into the bloodstream slower. So you don't get that huge energy rush all of a sudden.
I noticed just when I started organic, it didn't. Now I have a favorite. I hope they give me free coffee. Jim's organic coffee is my favorite. I found it a few years ago, and if you ever go on our Instagram, we did these funny during COVID, we would do these TikToks, and my husband doesn't do TikTok. He's AV. He doesn't do that stuff. He's like, I seriously have to do this. I'm like, well, so then we were ordering big giant things of the organic coffee, just so no one was shopping. So then we'd have it forever. So I'm like, do it with your Jim's organic coffee. You just got a 6-pound bag. So he did it with that, but that has been our very favorite treat, is getting the organic coffee. But that is just something organic that I found that I can tell the difference when I don't have, but love that. So what else you got for us, Melody?
What else do I got for you? So I gave you guys 5 tips. Do you want more?
Tips on a budget.
Yes.
I have a question for you, Melody. Any tips on washing your non-organic foods, vegetables?
Non-organic? Any tips on it?
I mean, obviously you're going to wash them all, but is there something that you need? Because anytime that I get something that's non-organic, I think, should I be doing something differently in washing them than I do just organic? Like, should I be more concerned about the pesticides? Should I be using some kind of spray?
I like to just wash mine with water exactly what you're doing.
Okay.
And of course, we have to be worried about the pesticides, but if it's not within your budget, which I can't ask everyone to get organic because it's so expensive, as I'm sure
plus
we all know.
availability.
Yes, availability
it's
too.
just not, you think I live in the middle of a cornfield, but it's not organic. I watch the planes go over spraying stuff and I'm like,
oh, crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
No, but I haven't added anything to my regimen.
Okay.
Now I do
non-organic.
I don't know if this is now, would you say scrubbing them or just washing them?
I like to scrub and wash mine really well.
Now
just because I get really worried.
I'm not a complete brat, but I did start getting manicures. Okay. So just a bit ago. And so the lady gives me the brush and she gives me like the new one. She said, this is what I use to clean my vegetables and fruit with. So I get a new one and I just use that. I love it. That's my vegetable cleaner. So what do you guys do, twins? Do you guys clean? Do you guys organic?
We live by Trader Joe's, and Trader Joe's has the most fantastic.
Who doesn't love Trader Joe's?
I was going to suggest that as well. Costco and Trader Joe's. If you want a cost-efficient organic, yes, very affordable.
Spray that they sell, and you spray it on, and also scrub it. You can take a toothbrush, you can take a pedicure brush, anything to brush off the pesticides. If you like to, eat the skin and it's not organic. Even with the strawberries, I don't scrub them, of course, but I do spray the organic wash and shake it really well. And I found that for those of you that are in areas that are more rural, I'm sure Amazon has everything. You could, Google it and find on that.
Probably. Okay, Melody. So what else? So we've got our tips for eating better. Got anything else?
So those are my first 5 tips. My other ones is to buy canned seafood. I would avoid tuna because of the mercury toxicity it could bring to us. Okay. And then buy seasonal, which I said, shop sales. So look in your local newspaper on the sales. It takes a lot more time, but if you're trying to save money, I feel like it's worth the extra ride. Yeah. And then my other one is to buy, let's see what I have, bulk dried herbs and spices. And those are my 5 other tips I have for you guys.
I like that too. And I would say too, what do you think about this, Melody? This last summer was the first summer that we were in the house. So for many of you who don't know, we were in a building. That's where our gym was. So we let the gym go, let all of that go so that we could move and then also have a much smaller area that I could work with my autoimmune clients. So we grew a garden and it went crazy. So we're able to dry out a lot of the parsley, a lot of we had everything. We went bonkers, corn, carrots, everything, because we had never done it. So we just went crazy, but it was extremely fun. And I'd never had that many vegetables growing at one time in my life. But I would say that too, depending on the climate and the heat, we have to be careful of that, but learn to grow and ask for help in that. It's such a popular thing now that I feel like there's so many apps, and I've like one app, I can just take it to the vegetables and just say, what's wrong? Grandma is in heaven. So, identify the plant and tell me what's wrong with this plant. It'll show the disease, what bugs are in it, what spray to get. So there's so many cool things that make it easy for us to grow food. So I
really love that. I feel like I've just always grown up in Vegas and it's just too hot to grow anything.
Right.
But I've always dreamed of having my own garden and growing my own foods.
Yeah, that's been one of my most fun things to be able to do this last year.
That sounds really fun.
We were going to put up a big sign that said, we have no idea, because we had labels up and then we just didn't know what was popping up anymore.
Wow.
So,
well, we did the same thing. This is Terry. We moved into a new house about 1.5 years ago, and we have enough land in the backyard where we did our own little garden. We had fun too, growing, all kinds of stuff from cauliflower to cabbage, tomatoes, all kinds of herbs. It was a ball, and rosemary. anybody living in this Atlanta area, come on over because we have an abundance of it.
Yeah, we might
It's
have
been
gone a little
fun.
bonkers with our rosemary, but it is great to be able to do that. And so those are some like really good tips for our health, for our food, for our mental illness things, for our kids, for our adults, for other MS, for other autoimmune people that are going through this and are alone, to reach out to them and say, what can I just listen? Can I just be another set of ears to listen to what it is that you might be going through today? And also when we're doing that, we need to think of what is a good time for us to do that, right? Because we can't give out of something that we don't have. And if we're exhausted and we're not taking care of ourselves, then we can't reach out to that other person to ask them what they need. So if we're taking care of ourselves and we're getting the sleep and we're eating well, then that makes us have the ability to then reach out to others and see what they need. So we've covered some really amazing topics like the workforce, which we'll cover more. And you'll cover more, Brooke. Bless you, Jen. You'll cover more, Brooke, when you're on with Dawn about the difference. And I'm excited about that. Ooh, I had that heater on. It felt good for a minute. Now I'm like, but I'm looking so forward to hearing all of the talk about advocating and the difference between that. I think that's going to be an excellent topic. And really just excited about where we're going and so excited to meet you guys, my new twins. And just very, very much looking forward to the advocacy. Thank you for sharing about what is being passed with the MS Society. And please, we'll put that in the show notes, but I want you to give me a little write-up on that so we can put it in. And just keep when we get to that point where we get so sad and depressed, which we all do, we know that, whether it's anxiety or depression, this is a safe place to reach out. And so Melody is going to give us a landing spot on the website. And feel free, so when you listen to this, when it airs, feel free to reach out to any of us, all of us, one of us, and ask a question, ask any questions you have, and we will be happy to get back with you. That's our heart. That's our goal, is when we find things that work for us or things that didn't, when we find the courage to advocate for ourselves and others, we want to be able to give that to you guys as well. So feel free. We want to hear feedback. We want to make sure that we cover topics that you guys want to hear about, not topics that we want to chat about, or we would just go visit each other and go have a lot of fun, which we would love to do at some point. So really loved tonight the topics that we were able to go over. Before we close, anybody have anything else they want to close with? We're all good. Well, guys, thank you so much for everything. Can't wait until next month. And in the meantime, we'll wait for feedback and wait to hear from our clients. And from good night to Dawn, we miss you, and to Brittany, who is I think we know everybody's handle more than we know each other's names. Yeah. But I think we talked about that, Brooke, that we know handles more. Yes. So we are sad to miss out on Clarissa and some of the other people that weren't able to come tonight, but we pray for them to get better. And we're excited to be joined next month with you all and more fun topics. Who knows what it's going to be like next month, right? We have no idea.
Exactly.
So, no idea. So I say always bring tea or wine. Let's just do a little cheers with your tea or wine.
Yes.
So cheers, guys. Cheers. Happy night, happy day, wherever you are. And can't wait to see you guys next month and disrupt whatever you think you can't do, because we've got you. So great, guys. It was just a great one.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Move It or Lose It podcast, where you can again find us every Tuesday, and also wherever you like your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Join us on that, and we can't wait to see you again. We're going to have a lot of exciting guests and working together. And as always, you'll hear us say at the end of every podcast, we are stronger together. So let's do it. Let's become stronger together.